This is hashtag history episode 152. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And wow, what an episode we have for you today. We teased it in our last episode, and I wasn't kidding. This is quite the episode, and I have been so eager to talk about this topic because it is so ding, 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 nuanced.
Nuanced.
Nuanced, the word of the season. There are so many facets to what we're talking about this week. There's presidential history, which I love. There's impeachment history, which for anyone that has been following us either here on the podcast or on social media for a while, you know that I've made it my life's mission to ensure that every single person on the planet understands exactly what impeachment is and is not. There's political scandal, which I am here for from a historical standpoint. Do I enjoy actively currently living through political scandal? No.
No, thank you.
No, we do not like that. But from a historical perspective, yeah, it's cool to look at. There's power dynamics and imbalances. And then there's also a touch of female empowerment, which, of course, you all know we are here for.
Only a touch?
Yeah, it's small.
Okay.
It's tiny. And you have to wait the full hour plus before we talk about anything positive or enlightening.
Wonderful.
This week, we are talking about Monica Lewinsky and the event that thrust her into the national spotlight in 1998 when it was revealed that she and the president of the United States, Bill Clinton, had engaged in a sexual affair while she was serving as a White House intern and then later as an employee. This all came to light because Lewinsky had revealed this affair to a colleague of hers, Linda Tripp, who, depending on who you ask, either was a person with an extremely strong moral compass or was someone with a strong vendetta against the Clintons and the administration, or maybe a little bit of both.
Right?
Right.
Gray area.
It's gray. Exactly. We're in our shades of gray.
This is shade 2.
This case goes so much deeper than a sexual affair. This was the catalyst in a long string of investigations conducted against Bill Clinton, including an investigation into sexual harassment allegations brought forth by a woman named Paula Jones. Clinton denied the affair with Lewinsky, saying in a televised statement, quote, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky," unquote. Ever the attorney, he would later belabor the meaning of the word is, clarifying that his statement about whether or not he had had sexual relations with Lewinsky would largely depend on, quote, "what the meaning of the word is, unquote."
Okay.
We'll get there. Sure, Clinton would be impeached in part because of this affair, but by and large, Lewinsky was the one that experienced more public judgment and personal consequences in the aftermath of the scandal. Lewinsky was made the butt of jokes on late night television, in tabloids, and overall media coverage. She struggled for years and years to find employment again and to regain any sense of privacy and normalcy. Clinton's part of the affair was seen as a man fulfilling his needs. Lewinsky's part in the affair was seen as calculated and nefarious. She has only been seen in a more favorable light in arguably the last decade following the Me Too movement, which led many to reevaluate the relationship and its nuances, the power imbalances, age differences, and the contrast in the public shaming that the two involved parties experienced.
It's like, and I'm somewhat guilty of this as well. I didn't think twice about that power imbalance and stuff when I was younger, hearing and learning about this. But now it's like, what was everyone thinking?
Isn't that wild? I think, yeah, if something like this were to happen now, God, God
I don't
forbid.
even know that they would care about they would be like, who, whatever, the woman got
Exactly. Exactly. And that's, or are you saying in the reverse?
Yeah. They would be like, oh, this young, I'm sure we're going to get into it. You know what? I'm just going to hold my comments.
I was
fine.
like eager, tell me, but we will get into it for sure. So, as we're going into this episode, I do have to say this carefully and approach this entire topic gently, because what I don't want to do is either of these two things. One, blame what happened on Monica Lewinsky. There was a clear power imbalance at play here. She was a 22-year-old intern
That was my point.
Yes. And he was the 49-year-old married president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We simply cannot hold these people up to one another equally. But what I also don't want to do is something that I see a lot of hardcore feminists do, which is to remove all agency, responsibility, and accountability from Lewinsky. Because while I do believe we cannot hold these two people against each other equally, they must both still be held accountable to their respective degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you are young and naive, you do know that having a sexual relationship with a married man, period, but also a married man that just so happens to be the leader of the free world, is not right.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm really looking forward to talking about all the things here. There's a lot of nuance, which is a word that apparently is getting used a lot already this season, because I used it a lot in last week's episode as well, but also approaching this topic with a gentle and careful lens. A drink will certainly not help me maintain that gentle, careful lens that I'm trying to maintain, but it is tradition, and therefore I must partake.
We must.
Is it cocktail time?
It's cocktail time.
Yeah, it's an obligation.
We're obligated.
Do I want to sip this delicious looking cocktail with blackberries floating on top? If I have to.
If we must.
If we must.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Hashtag History,
the podcast for both history nerds and history haters alike,
where we dive into history's greatest stories of controversy, conspiracy, and corruption.
This week's cocktail has once again been so kindly and so generously sponsored by our friend Jack.
Thank you, Jackie.
Big shout out to her for all her support and love, and we will definitely be enjoying these drinks on your behalf.
Yes, we will. Since we are obligated to do so,
Right.
I guess that we will.
Yeah. So for this week's cocktail, I was surprised to find that there was not one, but two cocktails named after Miss Lewinsky that I
Oh.
could find in my very short internet sleuthing. And while both did actually surprisingly sound great, this one piqued my interest a little bit more. So I went with it. And that's the story behind how this cocktail was chosen.
I love it. I love it.
So this is the Monica Lewinsky. It contains 2 ounces of vodka, 1 ounce of lemon juice, half an ounce of simple syrup, half an ounce of blackberry liqueur, and then fresh blackberries.
Not mad about that.
So I didn't like put the specific instructions, but I feel like I just muddled the blackberries once they melted, or
Yeah.
once they defrosted, because I did freeze them prior.
Yeah.
So yeah, muddled the blackberries and then just put everything else in there. I don't know if that's what you were supposed to do, muddling them, but I would assume so.
Yeah, my version of muddling was squishing them aggressively with my fingers.
Right.
But they're
and then
muddled.
You got them stained. Did you get
Yeah,
stains
no, I
on
had
your
to
finger?
scrub my hands like 3 times.
Yes.
Still some purpley hues to my fingertips, but it's
Yes.
all right.
And then I just wanted to note here, because I even put a note. Literally, it says note. I really just use this as an excuse to buy blackberry liqueur because I love me some Chambord. And
Yeah.
I learned Chambord, shockingly, not blackberry liqueur.
Yeah, the internet lied to me on that one too, because as I shared with Leah off air, I was looking for specifically blackberry liqueur, couldn't find it at my local store, and I still had Chambord from a previous cocktail. So I was like, that we did on the podcast. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll just use that. And then she provided me with that revelation that apparently I am not drinking blackberry liqueur.
I have been under the same impression.
Wow. So then so has the rest of the world.
I know. So apparently Chambord is black raspberry liqueur.
Okay.
Not sure what that is.
That
Never
feels
heard of
like the
black
same thing.
raspberries.
Yeah.
That feels very similar. So if you do want to use Chambord, if you have some, I think it would be fine.
Yeah.
And Rachel can tell you because she is doing that.
And I feel like before having tried this cocktail, I will tell you everything's going to be fine.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I will say that mine, and maybe it was just the brand of raspberry liqueur that I got, is so much more like vibrant red than Rachel's.
It's not the same drink. It doesn't even, they're not even cousins. They are unrelated.
Honestly, this would have been really good for the Hartford Circus Fire. Like, that's how bright and vibrant.
Definitely.
Mine is. It would have been good for that one.
Definitely.
Instead of that horrific thing we drank.
Horrific. But you know what? That was a horrific topic. They went well together.
Suiting, yeah.
Okay. Cheersies.
Cheers.
Nom, 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 nom. Delectable.
Yeah. 2 ounces of vodka plus some liqueur is actually quite a bit of alcohol.
I don't know. I was going to say we might need that to get through this episode, but it also might be dangerous to do that during this episode.
Well, if Rachel starts slurring her words,
Oof.
you know why.
Yeah, it's not because the topic's heavy. It's because this drink is heavy. Oh my God, it's so good.
Shoot, and I have a bottle of wine I have to finish tonight too.
Oh no.
So much alcohol for Leah.
Oh. That sounds awful.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. What's your rating on this one?
Oh, 8.
Okay. What could it have done to be better?
I think Chambord would have been better.
Mine does feel like very elevated, actually.
Yeah.
It tastes like a very elevated drink. I'm going to go 8.5.
Okay.
Yeah, for no particular reason other than you and I have the exact same palate, and my preference is kind of like spicier drinks.
Yeah.
Like a ginger beer drink. So this is like sweet. I like it. I don't hate it.
Oh, it is very sweet. Yes.
It's very sweet. I think that's the only thing that's knocking it down.
Which I like sweet, but it needs to have something like a kick
exactly
to it or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This episode is going to primarily focus on the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal. But in terms of timelines, I think it's important to first look into the various investigations that Clinton was involved in. And this isn't necessarily to demonstrate a sordid background, but rather because it is these investigations that really led to the sex scandal blowing up in the first place. Actually, that's where I'm going to pause. How familiar are you with the Lewinsky Clinton scandal and how it came to be?
I would say surface level, maybe whatever one step above.
Okay.
Or below surface level is. Below?
I think you mean above, like, a touch more than the general public.
A touch more. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
A tad, but like I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot here.
What is so, I just find, I was telling my husband this in preparation for this episode. This is not funny business. Like this is not funny that this happened. But I find small bits of humor in how it came about only because there's a lot of like office politics involved. Anyone that's worked in an office for a long period of time will understand a lot of this.
Oh, Jesus, I don't know if I want this right now.
I know. Like it's just so fascinating, that piece. And then it's also so interesting how many parties are involved and like how this came to be and how it might not have been had it not been for office politics and also these other various investigations that ended up leading up to it.
Yeah.
How we may have almost never known about this affair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure a lot of presidents have probably had lots of affairs. You know what I mean?
They would never.
I mean, what? Who said that?
Right.
So the fact that this one was so public is it's unique in that.
It is for sure. I think exactly to your point. How many presidents have had affairs? We only know of a small handful.
Yes.
And those are the ones we know of.
Yeah.
And this one is likely one that we would not have known of had these preceding steps not occurred. In the early 1990s, the Clintons, both Bill and his wife Hillary, were involved in a scandal relating back to real estate investments that they had made back in Arkansas. This controversy was referred to as the Whitewater Scandal, named after the Whitewater Development Corporation that they had been involved with. This is a whole episode in and of itself, but essentially, this scandal all comes down to financial misconduct and improper use of power and influence. Another large piece of the scandal involved a man named Vince Foster, an attorney that had worked with Hillary Clinton at a firm in Arkansas and then later as counsel in the Clinton administration. He was found dead in July of 1993 at the height of the Whitewater investigation. His death appeared to be that of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but this is a conspiracy that has followed the Clintons around for decades. It continues to this day that perhaps they or their people had orchestrated his death, given how much insight and intel he had into the Clintons and their financial situation. Again, it really could be its own episode. But the reason I bring all of this up is to say that the eventual independent counsel reviewing this matter was Kenneth Starr, a lawyer and staunch Republican who had served as the U.S. Solicitor General under George H.W. Bush. Starr found that Mr. and Mrs. Clinton were not responsible for Foster's death, and they also were not prosecuted for the Whitewater financial situation. But Starr did go on to investigate several other potential scandals related to the Clintons, many of which get wrapped up in the overall Whitewater scandal umbrella, but are technically their own scandals. Another one of these scandals is referred to as Filegate, which was a situation, again, in the early 1990s, in which the director of the White House's Office of Personnel Security had illegally obtained background checks on hundreds of people, primarily people in the previous Republican administrations. Conspiracy theories spiraled all the way up to First Lady Hillary Clinton, as many alleged that she had actually ordered the director to obtain these records. Starr, once again, exonerated the Clintons, saying there was no proof that they had had any involvement in the improper data request.
Mm-hmm.
There was another scandal referred to as Travelgate, in which several employees of the White House's travel office were fired abruptly, leading rumors and theories to arise. But most importantly, of course, was not a conspiracy or a scandal at all, but a very serious offense. In 1994, a woman named Paula Jones sued then President Bill Clinton for sexual harassment. She alleged that while she was working as a government employee in Arkansas, she had attended the annual governor's quality conference at a local hotel, during which time Clinton was the Arkansas governor. She stated that she was asked to go to Clinton's hotel room, and once inside, he exposed himself to her and demanded she kiss his wiener. I laughed when I put together my research too.
It's not funny.
It's not funny, but the word wiener is funny, which is why I used it, because we needed a tiny bit of levity in this moment.
Also, like, I know that shit like this happens. Mm-hmm. I know it does. Harvey Weinstein, like, I know it happens. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's so out of my scope of, like, things that any man I personally know would ever do.
Yeah.
It's that's what makes it feel funny. It's
yes.
like, I personally can't, it's unrealistic for any of the dudes I know.
Definitely. And one thing I would say to that is, how many guys do you know are in like significant positions of power?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And he was the governor at the time. And I think I know that that's part of why this happened, and why Lewinsky happened, is this power complex that men in these situations, but women get when they're in these positions of power. It's this complex of I can do anything. And
like, so up until that point, it proves to be true up until
the point it doesn't.
Yeah,
exactly. So after demanding she kisses his wiener, which she does not do, she flees the hotel room. 2 days before the 3-year statute of limitations ran out, she told her story and sued Clinton for $750,000 in damages. Jumping ahead a handful of years, this case was eventually settled out of court, with Clinton paying her $850,000. Did he do this just to get the case to go away? Or did he do this because he was actually guilty?
It's hard for me to imagine someone fully innocent, even if, like, even if something happened that he wanted to push aside, like, if it just, like, if anyone who is completely innocent and this was a completely made up story that has no merit to it at all, like, I personally feel like would try to defend themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and I would say in the scenario where someone is completely innocent, there is no merit, and they do settle, those are the scenarios where these people are like, I cannot continue to pay legal fees. I do. And guess what? That is not a problem for the Clintons.
Nope.
But I don't think that this was fake. I do believe Paula Jones, but because we have thrown a couple stones at Clinton, the reverse is that she waited until 2 days before the 3-year statute of limitations was up. And
yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, a negative thing that people have said about her, and referring to the possible falsehood of this allegation is, why would a woman wait so long? Obviously, I'm saying that with like sarcasm because I know why a woman would wait that long.
Yeah.
But in the media's point of view, why did she wait so long? Why did she, not claim it until 3 years later when she almost lost her chance to claim it?
Well, and I don't know, from my perspective, that almost makes it seem more legit. Is like, obviously someone's scared to come forward. That's the reason, right? Is you're scared to come forward for whatever the reason you're scared is. And to do it 2 days, what did you say, 2 days before you couldn't do it anymore? That means like clearly you realized the clock was ticking and this was your only chance to I don't know. Like it almost makes it seem more likely to me.
I'm with you 100% that she wrestled with this for 3 years.
Yeah.
And part of what you were saying, what is the fear that she experienced in debating whether she was going to bring this up? I think every woman has a fear regardless. But in that 3-year span when she's wrestling with it, he went from being the governor of Arkansas to the president of the United States.
Yes. That's scary.
Yeah, 100%. It's important to note that a minimum of 2 other women have also claimed sexual misconduct on the part of Clinton. One woman even stating that he raped her.
Wow.
The reason I want to see a baby. Let me see the baby. Oh, my Nino Snooky Bookie. Excuse us while we admire Leah's baby that just woke up from a nap here. Perfect palate cleanser for this heavy topic.
Sorry.
Yeah, speaking of, let's get back to sexual harassment here.
Yeah.
Either way, the reason that I bring up the Paula Jones lawsuit is for 2 reasons. One, because it's important. We cannot talk about all of the controversy and conspiracy and corruption this president may or may not have been involved in without discussing the glaring sexual harassment and rape allegations.
Right.
But 2, because it was this lawsuit, the Paula Jones lawsuit, that allowed Ken Starr to broaden his Whitewater investigation from merely the Clintons' financial records to now his personal life. See, this is why I just, again, I said this earlier, this is not a fun topic, but it's fascinating that had Paula Jones not filed her lawsuit, would we have known about Lewinsky?
Yeah.
Had Lewinsky not told Linda Tripp, which we're going to get into shortly, had she not told her colleague about her relationship, would we not know about this?
It's like the perfect storm of X, Y, Z, and all the ABCs happening in order to make what came to light come to light.
Exactly. When this investigation, Ken Starr's investigation, expanded into the personal realm, that is where Starr found a lot of unaired dirty laundry. No pun intended, considering the fact that a dirty dress that needed some laundering is going to become relevant in this case.
Great.
In July of 1995, a 21-year-old woman named Monica Lewinsky moved from the West Coast to Washington, D.C., where she was offered an unpaid summer internship in the White House Chief of Staff office, thanks to a connection made by a family friend.
I know I've heard of Monica's Lewinsky's background because she did an interview with a podcast I listened to.
Call Her Daddy?
No. I did.
She did recently.
She was on there recently. No, it was a couple years ago. It was our Armchair Expert.
Oh, I didn't know she did one with them.
Yeah, it was mostly talking about her foundation or whatever, but they always go into their history and their past and stuff. And so I know it, but I want to know, how do you go from? How do you go from being like a California college, undergrad graduate to working in the White House?
A family connection, a family friend connection, because. So we'll get into a little bit more of her history later, actually. But so she grew up in California. She went to Oregon for college and was kind of floundering a little bit, not sure what she wanted to do. And so her mom called up a friend and was like, "Hey, you got anything for my girl?" DC it was.
Okay, cool.
I totally agree, though. It's like, how do you go from this to being literally in the White House working for the chief of staff?
Yeah.
In an unpaid position. That is an important note, that
that's
she wasn't moving on to bigger and better things necessarily. She was not being paid. by November of that year. So she moves, when did I say? In July. She moves in July. By November of that year, Lewinsky and the president were engaged in a sexual affair. I, of course, have 2 copies of the Star Report book. And honestly, that's only because I have a horrible habit of forgetting which books are already in my home library and now have several duplicates. Hashtag history listeners, does anyone need a copy of 1984 or Fahrenheit 451? Because I have several.
To respond to that. I might, if you still have them available, I might take them for Nico.
100%. I've given one book away, but it's not either of these 2 that I mentioned. Okay. I'll bring them to you on Tuesday. Anyway, I referred to the Star Report book that I have, which included an exhibit that was in Lewinsky's grand jury testimony, which listed every single one of her encounters with the president, be it physical interactions, phone calls, or gifts exchanged. I won't read it in full detail here. The list is 11 pages long, but it's pretty interesting to read the first few entries to understand how quickly this relationship escalated. On this list, she has early August of 1995 as the first time that the 2 of them made eye contact. Shortly after, she was at the president's 49th birthday event in which they made eye contact once again, which is described as flirtatious. You see the next few encounters escalate with a photo opportunity, chance encounters, and Clinton making several visits to the office where Lewinsky worked. And then it all culminates on November 15th with them meeting in a private hallway and kissing. Later that same night, they meet again and have oral sex. 2 days later, they meet again and kiss. Same day, but later that day, she performs oral sex on him again while he is on a presidential phone call.
Oh, God.
Not long after that, there is the infamous encounter, which involved the cigar. If you don't know, this is the time when President Clinton inserted a cigar into Lewinsky's vagina.
Did not hear about that. Cool.
Okay, so if you didn't know, now you know. And if you didn't know, I'm sorry I had to be the one to tell you.
Yeah, I blame you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to know and that I was the messenger. This list carries on through 1998, with many of their encounters being phone sex after Lewinsky left the White House. Mm-hmm. As I already mentioned, Lewinsky started as an intern at the White House in July of 1995. By December, she was moved to a paid position in the White House Office of Legislative Affairs. But by April of the following year, Lewinsky was transferred to the Pentagon because everyone was starting to get suspicious about the significant amount of time she was spending with the president.
Were they just suspicious? Like, I feel like if someone was spending any amount of time with the president, if a young, attractive woman was spending any amount of time with the president outside of her job description, I don't really think there's a question as to what's happening. You know what I mean? Maybe that's judgmental of me.
2 things. No. No, I was just eating a BlackBerry, which is why it took me so long to respond. No. You're not being judgmental. 1, I would say they did do their best, this is in air quotes, best, to guise every one of those encounters with like, sure, her position in the Legislative Affairs Office was to bring this letter to the president, and then it just happened to be behind closed doors for 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is delivering a letter doesn't take 30 minutes.
Correct. But the second piece that I would add to this is if people are starting to get suspicious, number one, yeah, sure, a young, beautiful woman is behind closed doors with the president for extended periods of time. That already feels weird. But secondly, I think if it's his staff that are pushing her out to another position, it's because they know of his proclivities.
Oh, totally. Right? Like they're aware.
100%. 100%. There's a reason why his staff was removing her from him, because they know him. Lewinsky was miserable at the Pentagon and eventually began confiding in her 2 decades older coworker, Linda Tripp. And this is simply a side note, but this is part of what I do love about the story.
That your best friend is like a 50-year-old, like,
always.
Woman. Yeah.
Always. Like, I do genuinely love this about office jobs, as someone that has had a variety of office jobs for more than 10 years now, is how your colleagues who are 2 decades older than you have kids in college and love nothing more than gardening. Literally. and love nothing more than gardening and like drinking tea, they really do become your best friends. They know more about you than your best friends because you see them for 40 hours a week and yet you have nothing in common with them. It's genuinely beautiful. Like
it is.
It is beautiful. I do love this about office friendships.
It's really the shared trauma that bonds us so tightly.
It's the shared trauma. It's the hating the same coworker. That's exactly what it is, that it bonds you in a way that you just, and it's the proximity, right? Like they're the one that see you day in and day out. They're the ones that see you crying, not because you don't want to share with your actual best friend what you're crying about, but you just don't see your best friend 40 hours a week.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's something my boss said is I see Leah more than I see my husband.
Yeah.
Just think
absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
Yep. So
there are two men that I call the most, my husband and my coworker. Those are the two top men in my phone history.
Yep.
So that's kind of what's happening here. It's this office friendship with someone that is significantly older than her. But Tripp is unique in that she was an employee in the White House during the George H.W. Bush administration and was one of the few employees to keep her job when Clinton became president. This is something that I saw a lot when I used to work for the city of Sacramento. I worked very closely with the mayor and city council's office. That staff there, they're never guaranteed a position when the new person takes office, right?
No. Yeah.
And it's weird. It's a weird government position. It is a government position. People take government jobs for the stability, right? But it is a government position that is not particularly secure. And Tripp was one of those exceptions to the rule in that she kept her job even as the administration changed. And not only changed from person to person, but from Republican to Democrat.
Yeah.
She worked in the office of the White House counsel and was actually the very last person to see Vince Foster alive, the man that died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound that some allege was the Clintons' doing. And then, not long after that, the White House got rid of Tripp, shipping her off to the Pentagon. So she, like Lewinsky, was disgruntled and perhaps even demonstrated some animosity toward the Clinton administration. Tripp told a story of having witnessed a White House volunteer, Kathleen Willey, coming out of Clinton's office once disheveled and upset, stating that Clinton had groped her. So when Lewinsky started telling Tripp that she was engaged in a sexual relationship with the sitting president, it did not take Tripp long to contact a literary agent to write a book about it.
That would not be my first move unless I was holding a grudge.
Mm-hmm. She's holding, I'm going to mention it later, but there is an amazing dramatization series that was made about this. It's so good. And they do such a great job of building up that animosity towards the Clinton administration that Tripp felt. It's because she thinks Clinton is a perv, right? She has witnessed a former colleague walk out disheveled, saying she had been groped by him. Now she's witnessing a young colleague of hers saying that she's having a relationship with him. She was the last person to see Vince Foster alive, who to this day, people believe the Clintons were responsible for his death. She lost her job and she was working in the White House in the counsel's office, like a really important position. And then she gets shipped off to the Pentagon where she helps manage like tours of the White House. So she has several reasons to feel disgruntled, right? And so, like you said, like if you're an extremely disgruntled employee with animosity towards the current administration, perhaps your first move is reaching out to a literary agent.
For sure. Yeah.
On the advice of that literary agent, Tripp also began secretly audio recording conversations with Lewinsky.
I was just going to say, is this a two-party state?
Yes, it is. Linda Tripp lived in the state of Maryland at the time. It's a two-party consent state.
So her literary agent was advising her to break the law. Cool.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay. So Tripp is recording these phone calls that she's having with Lewinsky, unbeknownst to Lewinsky and against the law in the state of Maryland. Tripp also encouraged Lewinsky to keep all of the gifts Clinton had given to her, as well as to not dry clean her blue dress that had his semen on it.
Oh, damn.
Oh, shit. And now enter the Paula Jones affidavit. During all of this, the Jones lawsuit was ongoing. Lewinsky was served with an affidavit in which she was directly asked whether or not she had engaged in a sexual relationship with Bill Clinton. It's obvious why the Jones attorneys sent her this affidavit. They were seeking information about any and all other possible women that Clinton had potentially sexually harassed, particularly women who had worked in the government, like Paula Jones. Now, before you ask me how the Jones attorneys knew to seek information from Lewinsky, I do not have an answer for you.
Rumors.
Yeah, exactly.
Office rumors, man.
Office life. If you've worked office life, you get it.
You know you've heard about.
You know it.
Yeah.
You know it. I've searched high and low, and it appears that no one, even all the way down into the bowels of Reddit, know exactly how the Jones attorneys knew to serve an affidavit on Lewinsky. It's possible that Tripp tipped them off. It's also, to your point, Leah, entirely possible that they just started asking around the White House and people were like, you know who you should talk to? There's this Monica chick that used to hang out with the president in private hallways with cigars.
Oh, God.
Too far? Oh. Either way, this affidavit is served on Lewinsky, and she calls Clinton to ask him what she should do. And on his advice, on the president of the United States' advice, she decides to lie on a legal sworn affidavit.
Of course that was his advice.
Of course it was his advice, but he's an attorney and the president of the United States. I have the affidavit here pulled from the exhibits in my handy dandy star report, which I have 2 copies of if anyone wants one, which states, quote, "I have never had a sexual relationship with the president. He did not propose that we have a sexual relationship. He did not offer me employment or other benefits in exchange for a sexual relationship. I do not know of any other person who had a sexual relationship with the president, was offered employment or other benefits in exchange for a sexual relationship, or was denied employment or other benefits for a sexual relationship. The occasions that I saw the president after I left my employment at the White House in April of 1996 were official receptions, formal functions, or events related to the U.S. Department of Defense where I was working at the time. There were other people present on those occasions," unquote.
That sounds like Chat GPT.
Long before Chat GPT. For sure. I do think it's really important to note here, not to excuse Lewinsky, but simply to draw perspective. We have to talk about her age and her emotional vulnerability.
Yes.
When she signed this affidavit at the advice of Clinton, she was relying on his age and wisdom and education and experience and really believed that everything would turn out okay. It's important to note, too, that she believed he really loved her and that he may even publicly announce that at some point, may even leave his wife for her. So while, yes, it is illegal to sign a false affidavit and Lewinsky should be held responsible for that, she was also doing so under the belief that the man that she loved was looking out for her and not solely himself.
I have so many thoughts.
Can I hear them?
Maybe. I don't know. I think, listen, the brain doesn't even fully develop until you're in your what, like mid-20s, right? So this girl is literally like, it's hard for me to place any amount of blame, not any amount. There's some blame in her court, right? But like to really like judge her too harshly because of that, because like she was a child.
Yeah.
But I also feel like when I was 22 years old, I wouldn't have engaged in this sort of.
Yeah.
But that's also judgy of me to say. So I don't know.
I don't think so. I think that's fair because I feel like I'm picking up what you're getting at. And it's that at 21, 22 years old, you would not have engaged in a relationship with a married man, the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So to that, there is some accountability that needs to be held by Lewinsky, which she has held. We'll get to that. But I think you're also saying that if you went to this older person who has more experience, more education, more age on you, and you went to them, what should I do in response to this legal predicament that I'm in? You might trust their opinion.
But at the same time, the two sides of what I'm asking them to do, I feel like it's silly to not see that one side benefits him and one side doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like saying, yes, I've had a relationship with him clearly is going to put you know what I mean? You're going to someone for advice about something that affects them.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
That's the nuance, is it not?
It's nuanced.
Yep.
It's gray.
It's gray. But alas, Lewinsky did lie on the affidavit to the Jones attorneys, and Linda Tripp went to Ken Starr, who was currently and actively investigating the Whitewater controversy, and she told him that Lewinsky had lied on the affidavit. And this is what granted Starr the legal authority to expand on the Clinton investigations to include Monica Lewinsky. And this is when the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal officially blew up.
Yeah.
On January 17th, 1998, Clinton was deposed in the Paula Jones lawsuit, making him the first sitting U.S. president to give testimony in a civil case in which he was the defendant, and was caught off guard when he was asked a question about whether or not he had had sexual relations with Lewinsky. He denied this during a deposition, which this is me screaming it as someone that's been in the legal field for over 10 years. A deposition carries the same weight as in-court testimony insofar as perjuring oneself is concerned.
Yeah.
Being the clever lawyer he is, Clinton would later explain that he hadn't intentionally lied, but rather that the question he had been asked about sexual relations had been defined as whether Clinton had ever come into contact with certain areas of Lewinsky's body with the intent of arousing her, to which he argued that that couldn't be possible because he was on the receiving end of the oral sex and was not performing the arousal.
My bad. That makes it totally morally acceptable.
Legally acceptable.
Legally acceptable.
Legally acceptable. Mm-hmm. When sexual relations was defined as touching someone's body in these areas with the intent of arousal, and he's like, nah, I never did that.
I did not do that.
Precisely. That's what he's saying. This wasn't for her gratification. It was for mine.
Obviously.
Which is why it is not legally defined as sexual relations.
That makes it almost worse for me. Okay.
I know. It does make it almost worse, right? It's like, not only am I lying in a legal deposition, but also I had no intention of actually arousing or satisfying.
No, that wasn't the point, obviously, Rachel.
Exactly. Double whammy for him, though, because on the same day that he was deposed, a story about the Lewinsky affair was published in the Drudge Report, which was, at this time, it was a weekly subscriber-based email newsletter with primarily political stories from a right-wing conservative viewpoint. Just a few days later, on January 21st, it hit mainstream media when the Washington Post ran a story about it titled "Clinton Accused of Urging Aide to Lie." I was young when this happened, but I can still recall seeing tabloids at the grocery store covering this case ad nauseum.
Well, I was way too interested in Polly Pocket and Lisa Frank to notice that, but good on you for noticing that.
I just remember seeing several pictures of her, not to excuse my also Polly Pocket addiction. It would be almost 10 days after the story first broke before President Clinton addressed it on January 26th, definitely in a strategic way by speaking toward just like the tail end of a live speech in a nonchalant way. He said, quote, "Now I have to go back to work on my State of the Union speech, and I worked on it pretty late last night. But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anyone to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people." Unquote.
That feels very strategic.
It's very strategic. It's at the tail end of an unrelated speech.
Wow.
His wife, Hillary Clinton, also spoke out the next day in support of her husband, saying, quote, "The great story here for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president," unquote. And in her defense, we do not know for certain to what degree her husband was being honest with her at this point when she made this statement. That dramatization that I talked about that is so, so good. At this point, the way that they narrate it, she is unaware. He has told her, this is crazy. This Lewinsky lady, she's disturbed in the mind. She's been stalking me. I did not do this.
Okay.
On the other side of the scandal was Lewinsky, who was being put through it by the media, the public, and the federal government. In January, just before the story leaked, Tripp cooperated with the FBI to wear a wire and meet up with Lewinsky at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel inside the Pentagon City Mall and to try to get information out of her that way. Lewinsky would later report feeling like something was off, and so she was very guarded in her exchanges with Tripp, not revealing any new information in this setting.
I'm just imagining like me being like, hey Rachel.
Rachel, lean in really close to this side. Nope.
Tell me more about your specific explicit relationship with the president.
But specifically, if you could speak to my chest, that would be helpful.
To my chest.
Mm-hmm. Don't look at my eyes. Look at the boobs. Exactly. And so obviously she's like, this feels weird. While in this setting, though, FBI agents showed up, surrounded her, and forced Lewinsky to follow them to a hotel room where they kept her for 12 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Here, they aggressively interrogated her without an attorney present and threatened her with up to 27 years in prison unless she cooperated.
No.
Highly, highly unethical. Lewinsky, for all the things we do say about her being young and naive, she was certainly tough and wise with the FBI, and she refused to cooperate until she could speak with her family and her own legal counsel.
Good on you, girl.
Mm-hmm. In the weeks following the exposure, the media vilified her. Just some of the things she was called include homewrecker, slut, bimbo, stalker, fat girl, and portly pepperpot. Late night talk show hosts like Jay Leno and David Letterman made fun of her weight and intelligence. Her past also quickly came to light with Lewinsky's former high school drama instructor speaking to the press about how Lewinsky had pursued him and essentially forced a 5-year affair on him while he was married. And I mean, does this look bad for Lewinsky that maybe she has like some sort of proclivity perhaps for married men? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fact that this guy went to the press along with his wife and talked about what a stalker Lewinsky was and showed the media gifts that she had given to him, which included letters and lingerie. I mean, no one forced this man to cheat on his wife for 5 years, just to be clear.
Yeah. He's like, look at what this child forced me to do.
Exactly. In July of 1998, Lewinsky officially received transactional immunity in that she would not be convicted of perjury if she would testify to a grand jury about her relationship with Clinton. As part of this transaction, she provided the semen-stained dress to investigators, and she complied with more than a dozen interviews with the feds, which included forcing her to go into absolutely brutal detail about every single interaction with the president, including, of course, the cigar incident.
You might get into this, but I want to know what was happening between her and the president at this point. Like, did they stop communication? I would assume yes, in which case, if I were her, I'd want to like burn the house down.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'd be so angry.
Yes, and she was. They had stopped communicating at this point.
Okay.
Yep. And you know, going back to that dramatization that I brought up a million times, it's FX that put it together. It's called Impeachment: American Crime Story. They do a very good job of really demonstrating like she was in love with him and believed him to almost maybe even be her soulmate, and demonstrating how devastated she was when he stopped calling.
Yeah. I mean, I can't blame her on that front. Like, if I actually believed this man loved me, or at least cared for me in some way, shape, or form, him leaving me out to hang.
Yep.
After perjuring myself for him,
100%.
So furious.
As for Clinton, he did finally admit to the affair before a grand jury in August of 1998. He admitted that he had had an inappropriate relationship with Lewinsky, something that he also later stated in a televised statement that same evening. I mean, so we're going to look at this image from that televised statement. It's just wild to me.
Okay. It says, viewers are cautioned that this broadcast contains strong language and sexual content. And it shows Clinton resting his chin on his hand. I don't know. He almost looks like he's praying.
It's just I can't get past that this is just like a presidential address. He's speaking to the nation in a televised statement.
I know.
And that there's a disclaimer that says like, hey, what he's saying
sexual
contains
content.
Right. Like that
is crazy.
It's crazy. But even in the grand jury setting, Clinton was not entirely forthcoming. And if you've ever heard of the is moment in history, this right here is where that quote derived from. Essentially, during Clinton's grand jury testimony, he was asked about a statement his lawyer made in which he said, quote, there is no sexual relationship of any kind, unquote, between Clinton and Lewinsky. At the grand jury, Clinton was asked if he agreed with his lawyer that there is no sexual relationship of any kind, to which Clinton responded, quote, it depends on what the meaning of the word is, unquote.
Like, what do you mean? There's a dictionary.
What he was, of course, doing was nitpicking words because the word is implies present tense, right? At the time of the grand jury testimony, there was no longer an ongoing sexual relationship with Lewinsky. But so that's what he's getting at, is like, depends on what is means. Is as in right now, present tense, no. And that's what I meant when I said no. This statement became infamous and really synonymous with Clinton. Those who supported him saw it as clever. Those who did not support him saw it as untrustworthy.
I find this sort of defense in any situation, like being so about the particulars and less about the overall meaning behind something.
For sure.
So infuriating. Like this is a huge pet peeve of mine. Is like, stop like nitpicking about the particulars and actually you know what we're talking about.
Exactly. And I feel like I understand what you're saying from like a present modern day scenarios in a work meeting where people are getting hung up on nitpicky particulars.
Yes.
And what is the motive here? Is it to make you sound like the smartest person in the room?
It's a defense mechanism.
And that's exactly what it was here.
Yeah.
There were plenty that did support Clinton through this did not support him. Thank you. Thank God you said that, because that would have been an entirely different story. There were plenty of people that did not support Clinton during this time. With a Republican majority in Congress, it didn't take much to push through 2 articles of impeachment against Clinton for giving false testimony and for convincing Lewinsky to perjure herself. The official technical articles were lying under oath and obstruction of justice. And therefore, on December 19th, 1998, Clinton became only the second ever president of the United States to be impeached. Because, repeat after me, everyone, impeachment does not mean removal from office.
Impeachment does not mean removal from office.
It's a great song that we came up with.
So catchy.
It's so catchy. If only people would catch onto it. Impeachment is merely the formal process of bringing charges against a government official. It is up to the proceeding trial to determine whether that individual will be removed from office or not. And as history has proven time and time again, America has the inability to remove a government official from office following articles of impeachment, because after a 5-week trial in the Senate, Clinton was acquitted on both counts as the necessary 2/3 majority vote could not be met. There was a lot of conflict in how government officials felt about the impeachment charges. Many felt that the sex life of the president is his own private business. Whether he cheats on his wife or not is his own private business.
I actually there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I actually agree with that. I don't know.
No, for me, it's not that piece.
It's perjury.
It's the perjury, and it's encouraging someone else to perjure themselves. That's actually what it is.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the nuance that existed then and now about this case, that, a president's sex life is his own private business. It's not a matter for public consumption. But on the other end, there are those like I just said, that this isn't about the affair. It's about the lying as the president of the United States. It's also very much worth noting that several of these government officials stating that the sex life of a president is his own personal business were later exposed for cheating on their partners as they themselves were involved in extramarital affairs.
Yeah, that tracks.
Right. Right. Regardless of how the Senate voted, however, the public had largely made up their minds about the whole ordeal. Spurred on by the 445-page Starr report that Ken Starr presented to Congress and was later made into a best-selling book, many Americans saw Bill Clinton as a disgusting sex addict. They saw Hillary Clinton as a pushover who stayed with her husband strictly for political gain. And they saw Monica Lewinsky. Why did you look at me like that?
What? I didn't look at you anyway.
You were like, it was like side-eyeing.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
And me, it's like, because people can't see my face, I'm like, anyway. And they saw Monica Lewinsky as the overweight slut that had started the whole thing.
I just looked at pictures of her. It's actually like in 90s standards. Yes, that was probably considered
exactly
overweight, which is ridiculous. Today's standards, like, which is normal standards, let me just say.
Exactly. That infamous blue dress that has a semen on it is a size 12. Okay.
That's
average, actually.
Uh-huh.
Despite any negativity Clinton received as a result of the scandal, he was able to complete his second term as president and left with relatively high approval ratings. I do, however, really love this quote from Time magazine that they wrote back in 1998 as this was ongoing. They said, quote, "When it comes to women, Clinton has had a lifetime of enablers. Not just the friends who egged him on, but also the ones who helped him sidestep accusations. If it takes a village to raise a child, maybe it takes a circle of complicit friends to help a grown man go on acting like a teenager," unquote. Spicy. Like I mentioned in the introduction, Lewinsky really floundered for the next several years following the scandal. She said that while she didn't necessarily enjoy the public spotlight, she had an insane amount of legal bills to cover, and so public life was her only option.
Yeah.
She did a bunch of random controversial things like serving as the face of the Jenny Craig weight loss brand for a while. She was a host of a reality dating show, the maker of handbags, and so on. She disappeared from public line of sight for roughly a decade, in which time she moved overseas and pursued higher education, receiving a master's of science degree. When the Me Too movement began, Lewinsky used the hashtag alleging sexual harassment and assault, but she did not in this setting name names or provide details. But following this, she wrote an article for Vanity Fair titled Shame and Survival, in which she really reflected on the way the public vilification of her had affected her life. She continues to be a voice against cyberbullying. And while she has always stated that her relationship with Clinton was mutual and that she deeply regrets it, she has, in more recent years, acknowledged the obvious abuse of power that existed there. What are your thoughts?
I mean, there's just too many. Honestly, there's just too much to talk about here. I'm glad that she's now using this really unfortunate thing that happened that she was a part of and participated in, and is using it now as a platform for good. That's great. And that's something that's really cool. Like I mentioned, she was on a podcast I listened to, and I think she was on a podcast you listened to, and it's much less like talking about, there's like, at least the podcast I listen to, none of the sort of details of the, right. We're not like being explicit. We're not talking. Obviously, we acknowledge that thing happened, but now let's like actually talk about something productive. And that seems to be like what she's doing, is she's using it as a sounding board, or like as a platform for a good cause, which I am very much in support of.
I agree. Everything that I've heard her do in more recent years isn't really to talk about the scandal, which she shouldn't.
Like acknowledging that it happened.
And like acknowledging that's the reason we know her name.
Yeah. Very much it happened. Even acknowledging her part in it. And
exactly.
The negative aspects of it, but not like, we're not here to talk gossip, right? We're here to just acknowledge that thing happened and talk about something else.
I am just forever fascinated by this, and it's not even the sexual relationship that fascinates me. It's like
No,
how
that's
it
boring.
It's boring. It's the how it came to light is like so fascinating to me. And the aftermath is so fascinating to me. The impeachment history obviously is so fascinating to me, but it's also just like he ended up leaving office with like high approval ratings, and even following the scandal had relatively high approval ratings. And it's just shocking how quickly people are willing to move on from men's faults because it was him satisfying his needs, but she was the whore.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is just another thing. What I love is that an office friendship between a 20-something-year-old and a 40-something-year-old was one of the many puzzle pieces that made this thing into what it is.
Can you even imagine though if your 2 decades older than you colleague was recording everything you said?
What a breach of trust.
Tripp passed away several years ago from cancer, but all the way up until the day that she passed, Lewinsky stated she hates her guts. She was like, she just completely betrayed me and destroyed me.
Yeah, that's so hurtful. And the fact that she didn't go to, I don't even know who you would report. Maybe that's why she decided to write a book instead of reporting it to someone somewhere. But like the fact that she went to go write a book tells me that it wasn't like that was her first move, tells me like it wasn't ever to try to help Lewinsky or to try to address or fix the situation or make things better. It was just, she was just looking out for herself. So.
I'm with you on that 100%. And that's why it's like even more interesting to me when you think of all the layers that there can be to a human being, is that Linda Tripp always portrayed herself as this person with just like very high morals, and there's this kid that's being taken advantage of by this older president, and I'm just trying to protect her. But why did you go this route if that's true? And that series that I've talked about 1,000 times that should honestly sponsor the podcast at this point, because they're the same. FX. It's the same series that also did the Versace one that I talked about.
Oh, I love Versace. Yes.
They did Aaron Hernandez and OJ Simpson, which you have not talked about yet, but likely will in the future. Anyway, they do a really good job of presenting her as this person that is just like a hypocrisy in human form of like, I'm doing the right thing and I'm being vilified because I did the right thing, when it's like, well, even if what you did was the right thing, you did it in a really scummy, shady way.
Yeah.
And you destroyed someone's life.
I don't care if you were advised to record someone that trusted. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gross and nuanced. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of #History.
We will share the picture that we discussed on the episode to our Instagram, and all sources used to put together this episode can be found on our website, which is #history-pod.com.
A special thank you to my husband, Alex, for editing the podcast. Thank you so much. You're the best. Subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you use, share about us with your family and friends, and then give us a rate and review.
And be sure to check us out on Instagram at #history_podcast.
And come join us over on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can help support our books and booze supply. This is really a place where you can just support the podcast, and in exchange for your support, you will receive an automatic 15% off all merchandise, and we mail you cards and stickers.
And they're so cute, the cards and stickers. They're so cute.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.